All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. On behalf of Harvard Pilgrim and Tufts Health and Point 52 to cooking demo on island flavor. So we're going to be talking about Caribbean food, and then I'll give you some nutrition tips as we go along. My name is Brianna, and I am a registered dietitian. Feel free, I'll be checking the chat. So feel free to put any questions, any comments you have throughout this in the chat, and I will answer your questions. So we will go ahead and get started, and then I will share the recipe with you as well. I have this oven camera here, so hopefully you can see more of what I'm doing, but we are going to be making today some Haitian salmon with sauce. So there's a very specific type of sauce that Haitians use. My family is Haitian in a lot of their recipes. So we're going to be making that sauce today. Super flavorful, loads of vegetables in there as well. So we are going to start with the sauce. So I have a saucepan here. I have it over like a low medium-ish heat. I am going to add just like a drizzle of olive oil in here. And to that, I'm going to add red bell pepper, green bell pepper, and some red onions as well. So you can use whatever peppers you want. You can use carrots in here if you want. You can use different types of onions if you want. I like the red onion just because they're pretty sweet. They give a lot of good flavor in here. Okay, I think that's a good amount of peppers. All right, so I am going to give this a stir, get it coated in the oil, and let this saute until the onions and peppers are softened a little bit more. And then we will continue with the sauce. But while that is cooking, I wanted to just review some of the benefits of what we're going to be making today. So, like I said, we're going to be making salmon. So salmon is really good in terms of a nice fatty fish. So it is going to give us protein. So we need protein to be able to heal. We need protein to be able to protect our hair, our skin, our nails. Protein helps our brain communicate, helps our organs, and then of course it's going to help us build muscle as well. The only thing with protein is it helps us build muscle only when we have enough carbs in our diet. So if we aren't eating enough carbohydrates, then protein will be used for energy instead of being used for the functions that it needs to actually be used for. So we want to make sure we're getting enough carbohydrates. So this dish that we're preparing is going to have a good balance of nutrients. So we have our protein from our salmon. We have some rice that I'm going to serve it with. And then we have fat in the sauce, fat in the salmon, and then we've got our fiber from our vegetables as well. So a nice, well-rounded blend of nutrients so that we can get all the things that our body needs as well. So protein, salmon's high in protein. Salmon is also high in omega-3 fatty acids. I think omega-3s have been being talked about a little bit more consistently in the past few months or so. I think omega-3s have been a big topic, and one of the reasons for that is because of vegetable oils, canola oils. There has been a lot of talk that these oils are not good for us. We shouldn't be using them. We should only be using olive oil, grapeseed oil, things like that. What is actually true about that? Because I'm going to be using, I just use olive oil in the sauce. I'm going to be using vegetable oil, vegetable or canola oil in the salmon. The reason I'm using that is one, it is pretty traditional in Caribbean countries to use some type of canola vegetable oil. It's cheaper as well than olive oil. And two, it has a higher smoke point than olive oil. So if we are cooking something at a pretty high temperature and we're using olive oil, it can get to a point where it gets rancid and it lets off like some toxins that aren't actually good for us. So if we are using vegetable oil, it is totally okay. What the concern can be, as I add it to my pan here, and add a little bit more. What the concern ends up being is people tend to eat a lot more omega-6s, which come from vegetable oil, than they eat omega-3s. So what we want to do is have a nice balance of omega-3s and omega-6s, because if we don't, omega-6, which comes from the fat, fatty acid, can lead to inflammation in our bodies, and that's not what we want. But omega-6 and omega-3 both help with our brain health, our heart health, help with our cholesterol. So they're both doing similar functions in our body, but what we need is a good ratio of them. So having oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, totally fine, but we want to build up our omega-3s. So salmon has omega-3s that are going to help us balance that out a little bit more. And then any like walnuts, nuts and seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds are really high in omega-3s too. So it is more about getting a balance of nutrition versus on really focusing on one thing here and one thing there. So with that said, I put my vegetable oil in my pan here, and I have it at about a medium-high heat. And in here, bring it close to the camera. In here, I have salmon, 2 pieces of salmon that I have been marinating overnight. So what I put in here is adobo. So I have some adobo all-purpose seasoning. This has salt, garlic, pepper, oregano, and turmeric in it. I put some paprika in there. I put cayenne pepper, and then I put cloves as well. Cloves are very widely utilized in Haitian cooking and in a lot of Caribbean cooking as well. I see somebody raise their hand. If you have a question, I think you can put it in the chat. Just double check the chat. You can't see the camera. Huh. Okay, I will hold everything up to my other camera. Sorry about that. So this is a salmon that I have. You can see that. It does not have skin on. I actually wanted it to have skin on, but they didn't have it in the store. Skin just adds extra crunch. It adds extra flavor in there. So it's totally up to you if you have skin on or not. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the pan. Okay, so this is going to sear for about 4 to 5-ish minutes on each side. Yes, I will send you, or I will share my screen so you can see the recipe. So I want to show you one other ingredient that I put in the salmon. So I put this, it's called recadito. This is a Puerto Rican, if you've heard of sofrito, this is very similar to sofrito. It's Puerto Rican. And it has, let's see, it has culantro. So culantro is similar to cilantro. It's just a bigger leaf, so it's kind of long, kind of like spinach, but a lot longer. It has a very similar flavor profile to cilantro. It has pepper, onion, garlic, oregano in here too. So in Haiti, we use a flavor base called épice, and it has very similar ingredients. It has cilantro and parsley, peppers, onions. So pretty much the same thing, which is why I use this versus making my own for today. But this is a really great ingredient because we use it to put in the base of pretty much all of our cooking that we do. And what it does is it adds a lot of flavor to our dishes, of course. Let me move so you can actually see my face. It adds a lot of flavor to our dishes, but it also is adding a lot of vegetables and a lot of fiber in there that we might not be getting otherwise from our food. So it's just a really good way to add flavor, but a good way to add nutrition to our meals as well without really having to do much to it because all the vegetables are just blended down in there. Right? So back to the sauce. So the peppers and onions are they're like sweated down a little bit. They're still hard, but they're not super hard anymore. So now what I'm going to add to this is tomato paste. So I'm going to add, I believe the recipe calls for like 1.5 teaspoons or tablespoons. I usually don't measure all that much, so I'm just going to add a couple spoonfuls. And then we want to fry off the tomato paste, kind of get rid of that raw flavor. So I'm going to let that cook for a minute. I'm going to stir it around, let it cook for a minute. And then I saw a question about the benefits of skin on versus skin off for the salmon. So not really. There aren't too many nutritional benefits. Salmon has fat throughout it. You're going to get maybe a little bit more fat if you have the skin on, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It adds more flavor. It adds more crunch if you cook it to a way that's crunchy. So it can be really helpful texture-wise for your food, help you to enjoy your food a little bit more, but health benefits not really. So it's really a preference for you, whatever you like better. Okay. So while this is cooking down, let me share the recipe with you. I'm going to share my screen, and then you can take a second to screenshot it. Okay. So it's loading. All right. So this is these are the ingredients for the salmon and the sauce. Give you a minute there. Okay, and then this is the recipe. Okay, if you need to look at that again, just let me know and I'll reshare my screen again. So I thought baking was healthier than frying. Can you bake this instead? You can definitely bake this instead. So you can throw the salmon into the oven, maybe about like 400-ish degrees in the oven and have that baked. What is really cool about pan searing, and I wouldn't say we're frying, so we're not deep frying, we're like pan searing. So it has oil, it's not going to soak up all of the oil, so we're not going to be eating all the oil that is in this dish. But the cool thing about cooking with fat is that there are some nutrients, so vitamins A, D, E, and K. Those nutrients are fat soluble vitamins. And what happens with those is if we're like, say we had some steamed broccoli, we didn't have any fat in there, we weren't eating it with anything else, we just had some steamed broccoli, we're going to be able to absorb some of the vitamins in the steamed broccoli, some of the fat soluble vitamins in there. But once we add fat to it, we are actually able to absorb so much more. The fat kind of acts as like a carrier for the vitamins, so we get more from it. So this dish does already have fat from the salmon. It has some oil in the sauce. And if you like roast other vegetables with it, it might have fat from those vegetables too. So you definitely can bake this if you want to, instead of frying it, or pan searing it, but not necessarily a bad thing to pan sear it either. Okay. So while I was sharing the recipe, into the sauce, I added the recadito. So this was in the sauce and in the salmon marinade. And this is going to give it the cilantro flavor, have some garlic powder in there, so some like fresh herby flavor. And then just now I added some chicken broth to it as well, just to make the sauce like saucy. You can, if you want, the recipe calls for water. So you can add water. The reason why I use chicken broth is just because it has a little extra flavor. So totally up to you if you want to use water. You can use chicken broth. You can use vegetable broth, like whatever. Oh, my light went out. I hope you can still see me. Whatever works well for you. It's totally fine to do. Okay. All right, so I'm going to let the sauce come to a bit of a boil. Spoon. Come to a bit of a boil. And I'm going to add just a little bit of adobo. I don't want to add, so this has salt in it. I don't want to add too much because I added the chicken broth. And I don't think this is not unsalted chicken broth. It has reduced sodium, but it's not unsalted. So I just want to add a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is give it a stir, and then I'm going to taste it and see if it adds any more, or see if it needs any more. I'm also going to add some cloves as well. So you have the measurements in your recipe. I don't tend to measure things all that well. I kind of just cook from the heart, see how it tastes. I'm gonna flip my salmon, try not to break it apart too much. We lost a little bit of the salmon, but that's okay. This is a Scotch bonnet pepper, or a habanero pepper, you can think of it as well. I always add these to my dishes, especially if I'm making sauce. I kind of just throw them right in, and it adds like a little bit of a spicy flavor to it, but not too much. I bought a pack of these and I just keep them in my freezer. So I can just grab them whenever I want. It makes it pretty convenient, but I don't cook with them all the time. But when I do want them, I have them readily available. I'm also going to add some lime juice to this to give it some acidity. I'm going to break down any sweetness from the tomatoes, the tomato paste and the vegetables. And then I have here some thyme. I grew this thyme myself. I'm gonna throw that in the sauce to impart some flavor too. So I'm gonna let this boil for a little bit, and then I am going to give it a taste and then see if I need to add any more flavors to it. So another question in here. What kind of flavor does this dish have? I've never had Haitian food before. It's hard for me to imagine with these ingredients I have never used. That's a really good question. So trying to think of how to explain the flavor of this dish. It is definitely, Haitian food is definitely fresh. So there's a lot of freshness to our food. We use a lot of herbs, fresh herbs. We use a lot of bell pepper. So you can think of a little bit of sweetness coming from that as well. And then it also has a kind of like a homey, comforting flavor, or maybe like a spicy flavor. If you want to think of Christmas or like holiday flavors a little bit, if you celebrate and you have like holiday food and you have like the pumpkin pie that has cloves in it, and some of those other flavors, then you have a little bit of that with Haitian food as well. So it's like it's that's a good question. It's hard for me to explain. It's comforting from those types of flavors, but it's also really fresh, and has some sweetness and then definitely some spice from the peppers that we use as well. Would you recommend avocado oil for cooking in high temperature? Avocado oil, trying to think, I believe avocado oil has a high smoke point. So as long as it has a high smoke point, totally fine to do. Avocado oil is great. I recommend it to some people, not to others, just depending on finances. Avocado oil is really expensive. So if someone is able to only afford like a vegetable canola oil, but they're still getting a lot of balance in their other nutrients, then I'm totally fine with them doing that. For the most part, I would say like most dishes, olive oil is okay with. If you're making like chicken, any type of meat, any type of protein on the stove, maybe go with like a higher temperature oil. But when I was cooking the vegetables, I just did olive oil because it was low temp, and that was fine. So as long as you're not overdoing it, totally okay to do. So I just want to show you, I took out the salmon. So now it's a little hard to see. So I seared it on both sides. And then I have it paired with, I'm sure your kitchen smells amazing. It smells so good. I have it paired with some coconut rice. And then I just added some green beans and tomatoes on here. The rice and the green beans aren't in the recipe. You can add whatever sides you want to this. The reason why I have white rice and not brown rice or not wild rice is, one, I don't love brown rice. You can use brown rice if you want, if you like it. I just not the biggest fan of brown rice. Takes a long time to cook. Don't love the texture of it all that much. But two, like I was saying before with the recadito, with the vegetables in the sauce, what we're doing is adding more fiber to the dish. The difference between white rice and brown rice in terms of fiber is a couple of grams of fiber. So if you're eating more vegetables, if you're eating other things in your dish, then it helps to balance it out a little bit more. So if you prefer white rice and maybe like your blood sugar responds okay to it, especially if somebody has diabetes, their blood sugar responds okay to it, you prefer that, pair it with protein, pair it with some vegetables. It's not going to spike our blood sugars all that much, and then we're still getting fiber from our vegetables as well. So while the sauce is finishing, just simmering a little bit, I'm just going to get some avocado ready. Most Haitian dishes are served with avocado. A lot of different Caribbean dishes are served with avocado. So just slicing this up here. So a little bit extra fat from the avocado as well. Scoop this out. On the side. Quarter of the avocado in here. And then I'm going to give our sauce a taste. Make sure it has enough seasoning. Make sure it's tasting all right. Definitely need some more salt. So salt is an ingredient that helps bring the flavor out of other ingredients. So you definitely don't want to overdo salt. You want to keep an eye on it, especially for like heart reasons, blood pressure reasons. But this could definitely use a little bit more. And then that is our dish. So I'm going to plate this up. I'm just going to spoon some of the sauce. I don't know if you can see me, but I'm spooning the sauce over the salmon. So we're getting like a rich tomato based flavor and the sweetness of the peppers and the onions as well. Is this sauce good over chicken? Yes, this sauce is used for so many different things in Haitian cooking. So if you look up chicken in sauce, a Haitian recipe, same exact sauce. You can put it on salmon, you can put it on, it's used on turkey as well. Let me just tilt my screen so you can see this. So I've got lots of color in here. I've got lots of balance in here as well. Any substitutes, excuse me, any suggestions for salt substitutes? So you can use, I think of what I have. I know this might be controversial. You can use MSG. MSG, there is a lot of conversation around MSG that is also not very true. When we actually look at the research for MSG, MSG is totally cool for us, totally good for us. And MSG has less sodium than salt. So if you want to use MSG, then it is, you'll get less sodium from it, but the same amount or even more flavor from it as well. So sometimes I'll use MSG in my cooking too. You can also use, I have these like salt-free dash seasoning blends as well, if you can see them. Salt-free dash. These just have a bunch of spices. So it has like onions and peppers and celery seeds, thyme, mustard. So really bulking up your other flavors to reduce the sodium as well. And then real quick before we go, I want to answer this one last question, which is the pickles. I didn't add this to the dish quite yet, so I'm glad you asked the question. This is a, if you think of coleslaw, but think of a vinegar-based coleslaw that's really spicy. That's what pickles taste like. I found this at my regular grocery store in the like the international food section. You might have to go to like a Caribbean, I don't know where you all are located, but there are some like Caribbean supermarkets near me that definitely have this ingredient. But it has cabbage, it has peppers, it has carrots in here, and then a bunch of vinegar as well. So it's like it's a pickled coleslaw. And the benefits of anything fermented is that it's really good for our gut. So it kind of helps to balance our gut health as well. So typically pickles is served on in Haitian recipes, but you don't have to have it. It just adds another balance of ingredients as well. Can you use frozen salmon fillets? How long to thaw before you season? That's a good question. You can use frozen. I would thaw it overnight and then season it. Maybe give it a couple hours of marination. Or if you do it overnight, it should be okay. But if you don't want to go too long before you thaw something, or after you thaw something before you cook it, you just keep an eye on that. Awesome. Mrs. Dash seasoning blends. Yes, Mrs. Dash is very good as an option. Cool. Well, definitely, if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. This is our final dish. I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you all try it because this is pretty delicious. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.